You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. This is your host, Ken Lane, here talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona, and we are into probably the best planting season of the entire year. Everyone wants to plant in spring, and that's a good time. You got a lot of choices in spring, but it's the hardest time for the mountains, this high elevation where you've got wind, it's dry, there's a prevailing southwest wind, oh my gosh, tender new growth, heavy clay soil. You're almost better off waiting until the monsoons hit in July sometime, because then you got the humidity up. That prevailing southwest wind is done. Yes, you get some hail and some other stormy things that happen with a monsoon pattern, possibly, not every time. But at least the humidity, it's easier on the plants. The plants have leafed out by then, and they've hardened off. That tender new leaf is more sensitive than a hardened, thickened, more mature leaf of summer. And then fall, this is when plants start to hibernate. All plants start to hibernate. Some start to bloom. So you're seeing snapdragons. They love the fall. They start celebrating by blooming. Pansies, kale, mums, your perennials are echinaceas, your shrubs are, burning bush and amber maples, and there's this season for fall where some plants just go, whoa, I love it! I love the cooler nights, I love the bright days, and they prefer to be planted now. This is the only time you'll find certain plants at the garden center. So right now we're unloading. This is all garden centers, all the higher elevations, actually probably all garden centers. We're shipping plants now through the end of October is our goal, especially at the colder climates. We need to predict what the winter inventory needs to be. How much will we sell through winter? And so we bring all of that plant in, all the perennials, shrubs, trees. We bring them in now so that we can harden those things off or acclimate them to our cycle of going cold. And so they go through that winter months, and now you can take it in January and December and February, which we do plant year round. I mean, we have our planting crews are putting plants in the ground every month of the year. Landscapers come in. They're planting 12 months out of the year. As long as the ground is not frozen, we're planting. But you need a plant that has been acclimated or used to our climate. If it's used to that freeze-thaw cycle, you can go plant it right in your yard, be perfectly fine. And so you're seeing this buildup of inventory right now at your local garden center, whether it's Kingman to Pinetop to Payson to Sedona, Camp Verde, or Prescott. We're all kind of building up our inventory, and you're going to front load a lot of it with your evergreen stuff because it looks so good even in winter. And this is when most evergreens are planted now through March. That's its peak window. And so we're building up. We're having more inventory. You've got more choices as a consumer when you head to your local garden center and shop for evergreens. Let's say it's a big spruce, or you want a big maple, whatever it is. You've got more choices now, and they're larger sized. So we're trying to bring in for us. This is Waters Garden Center in Prescott, Arizona. This is just us. We are looking for big evergreens that are in containers that are easier to move around, easier to bring into your house and to decorate, and then take out of your house and plant in the landscape for living Christmas trees. I mean, that's a tradition. We sell more living trees than we do cut trees in the month of December because we've planned out. We've got enough to get through, and we show them off. And quite honestly, I'd rather have people plant a tree than cut one down and use it and throw it away. I think that might be considered wasteful, and it's way better than a plastic thing you got from China. So it's just kind of that's our niche in the marketplace, and so we grow and we purchase and we ship in the month of October to accommodate that. Why did I even get on that track? I lose track. You see how I am? Anyway, you're seeing this fall mixture of plants at your garden center. The Crepe Myrtles, we're not going to order another one of those until next summer. A Rose of Sharon is not going to be ordered again until next summer. You better grab, if you want a summer blooming thing, they're starting to show some color now. So they get that typically either orange or yellow, kind of aspen gold color. If you want those, if you want a blooming Russian sage, if you want a Salvia greggii or autumn sage, you better grab it now because it won't be at your local garden center here within another 3, 4, 5 weeks. So then the evergreens will come into their place. So cotoneasters and nandinas and that kind of stuff. So we've been busy. I mean, my back kind of hurts from unloading all the trucks, but it's exciting to see the new material coming in. So it's kind of fun. So, and that's unique to a little bit more temperate climate. You folks from the Midwest, the East Coast, you're kind of going, he's talking some foreign language to me. It's Latin. I have no idea what he's even saying because we've never planted before in the winter. Well, you're not. You're in a warm climate because it's so nice here year round. I mean, in January, a week after a major blizzard, it's all melted off and it's feeling good. And you're outside taking a hike in 2 layers, and a vest. You're not eating a parka. You don't need those anymore. For if you're a garden center owner, there's several of us. We're all friends. If there's a major blizzard and Flagstaff gets buried alive, we all have agreements. We just call each other. We're hoping the blizzard will hit midweek so that we can come work the weekend, take the midweek off, and we run up to Flagstaff before anyone else and go hit the slopes and go ski. So that's great. Only in Arizona can you do that. And then you'll head down and play around a golf in Scottsdale. So it's just, Arizona is the most awesome state ever. Welcome all you new folks to God's country. It is nicer here, mainly because the weather is so nice. I mean, it's not Southern California nice, but we don't have the pollution they got either. So it's just better here. So this is the season when you're seeing a lot of that transition into fall color. You folks from Palm Springs and Southern Cal and Tucson and Phoenix is the desert, El Paso's west of Austin, those areas. You're just not used to 4 seasons. You're used to a mono season. It's like tropical. It's all the same time, all the time. Here we actually have 4 very distinct seasons. And so the fall season is really for our fall color. And this is when the flatlanders, is what we call them, the desert dwellers, come up the mountains and they want to see all the aspens. Oh, it's so pretty. Well, you can grow one in your own yard. You don't have to go anywhere. You can just have one right there. And it turns color here in the month of October. It just has that beautiful fall color. It has that trembling. It's a Populus tremuloides is the Latin name for aspens or trembling leaf poplar or trembling leaf aspens. That's our native aspen that grows here with that beautiful white bark. That's the one. Birch. You folks in the Midwest, you're used to more birch trees than aspen trees. And they're a little bit hardier, but they get that white bark. They've got a little bit more pointed leaf to it, more serrated leaf, but definitely white bark, a little bit more of a weeping pattern. Not truly weeping trees, but it kind of grows out, kind of wispy, and then comes down. The leaves don't tremble, but the branches do. And what I find is in heavy clay soils, the birch are actually a little tougher. You got to maintain both of them, but they'll grow at almost any elevation. If you get them at, let's say, if you're going to grow those over in Cottonwood, Camp Verde, I'm not sure about Kingman. Next time I'm floating through there, I'm going to look for aspens over there. I think they would probably grow if you put them on irrigation. I had aspens in Skull Valley when we lived out there. That's 4,000 foot, 4,200 feet, somewhere in there. So that's, I think Kingman's down about 500 feet lower than that. So yeah, I bet you could grow aspens out there. Would it take the wind that sweeps across the desert? That's the question. So anyway, now's the time you can plant those, enjoy those, and you don't have to go anywhere. You can just go out on your back patio, sip a glass of tea, and watch the sunset through your glorious aspen leaves that are turning gold right now.
You're listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, also known as the Mountain Gardener. Ken can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Listen each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to mountain landscapes.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our Coral Queen Kale.
This unusual plant has deeply serrated foliage with deep green outer leaves and a very dark crimson center.
She is definitely the queen of the autumn garden.
This crop has huge feathery leaves that form large heads the size of beach balls.
Very, very pretty, and all for under $10.
Waters Garden Center, the place for people who love very pretty plants. They love to shop. You know how to find us.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and her Ivory Feathers Pampas grass.
The most majestic of all grasses, this dwarf variety grows only 5 feet, making it easier to care for.
In feathery bloom now with long ivory plumes held tall above the flowing green foliage.
At $39, this perfect pampas grass is ready for fall planting while supplies last.
Only grown here at Waters Garden Center, the place where people who love ivory feathered grasses, they love to shop. You know where to find us.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
And we are back with Lisa Waters Lane in the studio. She comes in each week with your garden questions, and so we have been on the road this week. Trade shows.
Lots and lots of trade shows, lots of traveling. Ugh.
Well, it's Reno, Nevada. It's not our favorite city. I mean, it's a good, nice city. No offense for those of you from Nevada, but it's not our favorite on
Very
the
nice
ranking of world cities, which we love to go travel and see. It's not up there, but the trade shows, this is like industry. Everyone in the West that has a retail garden center, they land in Reno, and for 3 days, they do nothing but shop. I mean, for next year. So that's where all the chemicals, fertilizers, ladybugs, outdoor living, garden gifts, the trends for next year, and some exciting stuff coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of neat stuff there. It's almost overwhelming because there's so much, and you got to plow through it and go, well, this will do well. This is good. This is a great new product. And it's fun to see the new products coming out. I mean, they're not all going to work for us, but it's fun to see what's happening.
You get to hang out with the scientists that make the new, like we have a new organic weed killer. So we're going all natural weed killers. No glyphosates, no chemicals, or very, very few chemicals in weed killers. We can do it all with natural products. This is vinegars with natural clove oils added to it. They've got these mixtures that really work. And you can talk one-on-one with the guy that made the molecule, that did the science, that's introducing this. You're right there. So it's way over my head sometimes, but you nod, you smile, and you go, oh, I think I understand. I think I got this. A new broadleaf weed killer made from iron, of all things, is coming out next year. We'll have this for next year, probably January 1, maybe the end of this year. We'll see. But this is exciting. Broadleaf dandelions in the lawn or out in the yard, and you can kill it naturally. You don't have to worry about your dogs or your cats or your birds or your husband or anything. You just kind of can do it, and it's safe. This is exciting new stuff. This is cutting edge stuff, and I get all jazzed talking to these brainiacs.
It's fun. It is nice to see that they're making the move more towards organic materials that work.
Yeah.
I think the knock has been, it sure is organic, but it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see they're actually putting some science into it, and they're actually making sure that they are fulfilling what they say they're going to do.
The one that confused me was the soil penetrants. The guy was out there he was a engineer of some sort. I couldn't even understand his title, but he owns a garden center up in Nevada or Northern California someplace. And he's scientist first, garden center owner next. His whole family's in the booth. They're explaining this new soil penetrant, how everything will grow better, even in heavy clay. I'm going, I'm not even sure I can wrap my brain around this. I'm not sure about my customers. How do I train them? But anyway, that's good. So welcome back.
Yes.
Nice
Always good to be back.
travel buddy.
Yes.
We should cover a garden question or two, you think?
Okay.
Or
I
I
guess.
can keep going. Let's go to Portland next.
Oh, I've been there. Don't want to do that again. Okay. Our first question is from Tom. He moved here from Indiana. Welcome to warmer weather.
Yeah.
And always planted trees in the fall. He wants to know, is that hold true here, that fall is a good planting time?
Oh, yeah. This is very similar to Indiana. Maybe we're a zone warmer. We're zone 6, 7. We flirt very strong. Really, we're zone 7, flirt with zone 8s almost, depending on your elevation and where people are listening from. But Indiana would be more like a Flagstaff, Williams, White Mountain kind of zone. So we're just a click behind that. Yes, fall is probably the ideal time. Now, the difference between Arizona and, let's say, the Midwest is you'll need to water through the winter here. We're so mild. That's why you moved to a warmer climate, that the trees don't truly shut down like they do in the Midwest. There you get a frost line, they just shut down. Here you'll need to plant now. Beautiful spruce, beautiful pine, deodar cedars, Arizona cypress, junipers, cotoneasters. I mean, you can go down the list. A lot of things you're not used to because we're warmer. You've got more options to play with. You can grow everything you grew in the Midwest and a whole lot more. You can plant them now, and then you'll just have to remember, starting November you'll be watering about twice a month is how often you'll water. Just take the hose out and water it, give it a deep soak, and you're done. If you don't do that, we can get very dry years where there's not enough moisture to keep the plants happy. We'll get a real cold cycle, and we get what's called a winter burn or winter kill. The tops of the plants will be lost because there's not enough moisture in the structure of those plants to keep them keep the antifreeze moving up and down the structure of that plant. Just by spot treating, spot watering a couple times a month, that takes all that pressure off. And so you'll get root growth from now through the end of the year. That's the benefit. That's why you would plant in the Midwest or here. You get some root growth, and then you also get a second set of root growth next spring after that flush of growth. So you get a stronger plant before next summer, and so you get more growth, a bigger plant. It's just better. Yes. Okay, to answer your question, yes. Go too deep. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, it's good. But I know a lot of people don't think about winter watering. And
True,
it is so essential. And I know it's like we're beating the dead horse because we talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
But I get customers all the time going, what happened? Only half my tree leafed out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, did you winter water? No.
Yeah.
Important.
They forget to winter water because they turn that irrigation off in November, and then they haven't been watered all winter. They turn it back on in April, and then they overwater. They compensate. Oh, we'll catch up now. There is no catching up with plants. When you don't water your puppy dog for all winter, and it falls over dead, you can't give it water now to revive it. It's just too late. These are living, breathing things. There's a fine line there, but just real sporadic. It doesn't take a lot. Just takes every couple of weeks. Pick a nice day. You want some fresh air? Go pull those, water the plants.
Right.
Yep.
Definitely. Okay. So Susan was planting mums and other perennials in her raised bed.
Yeah.
She saw some white, fat, wormy looking things, and she wants to know, should she be concerned?
Is that she put it white, fat, wormy things?
How would you describe them?
That's great. That's perfect, actually. Yeah, you've got grubs. They're highly active right now. So grubs are high up in the soil, and they're actively feeding. They're trying to fatten up before they hibernate. They'll go down real deep in the soil, and so they live off of roots of plants. And so this is extremely serious. I mean, I can't put that enough. You have an issue, and those plants will definitely suffer, will be stressed, and could easily die if not corrected. So if you're digging around in the soil and you see some white worms, those are grubs. Most of our issues in the mountains of Arizona, because it's so dry, are the insects go for where the moisture is. Well, the moisture is in the soil, or it's in the trunks of the trees. It's in the structure of the plants. So the bugs are in the plants. That's why we have such problems with bark beetle, flathead borer, ips beetle in the trunks of trees, and then grubs in the ground. And so it's real easy to kill them. We've got a grub killer. It's called grub killer. I mean, that's what you sprinkle it on like a fertilizer, water it in, wipes them out. And an application will take you through, next spring. So once and done kind of thing. So very important. I would do not just those few mums you just planted. I would do that entire bed. And I might even dig a few test holes just to look for other areas because it's such a problem here. They attack plants by the hundreds. So yeah, serious. Grub killer kills grubs.
And they even go in your containers. I remember, was it last year? Had this beautiful not coral bell. What's the other one?
Heuchera.
And it was just started looking ugly. And I'm like, well, what is the problem with that thing? I went to go kind of look at it and touched it, and it fell out of the pot because there were no roots.
Yeah.
So it can happen anywhere: pots, raised beds, trees, shrubs. So it's something to keep an
Grubs,
eye on.
they're a beetle larva. So the beetles, these black beetles that roam around, they're laying eggs in things. And so the eggs have hatched now, and now they're actively growing. These are this year's grubs you're seeing. And so they'll triple in size before next spring. They'll eat actively through December. Then they'll go real deep as the ground gets cold. They'll hibernate down there, and then they'll come back up and eat your spring roots. And then your plants blow over in the wind, and you wonder what happens. Or your heuchera fades, starts looking terrible. You pull up, no roots left. Grass will get big brown spots in them. Those are all grub issues and need to be dealt with. It's serious. Grub killer. Be right back with Ken and Lisa Lane and the Mountain Gardeners.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa with the plants of the week and our red wall creeping vine.
It's said good fences make good neighbors, but fences can be downright ugly.
This rich green climber is turning fire engine red through October with blue accent fruit. It's really pretty.
And very fast growing, and when planted at 8-foot intervals, covers a boring fence within a season, all for just $39.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love good neighbors, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken with the plants of the week and our Cheyenne Spirit coneflower.
This new native is an exclusive wildflower sure to delight and inspire.
The flowers change from purples to orange, then fade into a Cheyenne sunset.
Leave some of the seed head so that it spreads throughout the garden. Adds winter beauty that also feeds the birds through winter. And just $17.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love exclusive flowers, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
Now, some things that I did personally in my own personal gardens at my house, not here at the garden center, at the house, is right before that storm hit last week, I fertilized everything in the landscape. This is truly the most important feeding of the entire year. Now, you can do it any time in the month of October. I was just simply taking advantage of the rain that was coming so I can get that food on the ground and then in the ground. I mean, actually, the rain would dissolve some of it, wash it into the ground so the plants can start to pick that up. It'll do two things if you do it earlier in October rather than waiting till things are truly dormant. If you do it now, you can actually change the pH of the soil if you're using the right food. Now, I'll go into that in a bit. How deep do I want to go with this? What I do is I put my own food. It's got cottonseed meal and some sulfur, and you're putting that on the ground now. With that sulfur and cottonseed meal, it will actually lower the pH of the soil. You're changing, not just fertilizing the plants, you're changing the pH, the structure, the chemistry of the soil around the plants. So it makes it more acidic. What that does for you is it brings the color out. There'll be intenser orange, intenser purple, more intense reds showing up by fertilizing earlier rather than later. Some of you, your red maples, they aren't red at all. Your red ash, it's not purple or red at all. They're yellow. And that's all because the pH. Once the pH creeps up to a certain level, the color's lost. Your fragrance will disappear on some things like roses, some of your cut flower things, rudbeckia. Your mums won't have the same. Your pansies won't have the same fragrance that they're noted for. If your lilacs haven't bloomed the last couple of years, the only reason that is because they aren't fertilized. They're starving. And so when a plant doesn't have enough food to access, it will negate the flowers. It just go, I can't spend any energy on the flowers. I just have to keep my foliage alive because I'm worried about starving to death. And so that's indication you need to fertilize. And for those spring blooming plants, you really need to fertilize now in the fall. It's using that food to form that bud through winter to show off next spring. That's why it's so important. So this is where we have very heavy clay soils, very alkaline water, and not much topsoils. This is super important. This is more important here in the mountains of Arizona than probably any place else in the country. And it's half to do because of our clay soil. The other half has to do with our monsoon rains pick up what little bit of topsoil we have, and it washes it or has it float downstream. And so you'll see these beautiful, like against Kirkland Creek or Hacienda, you'll see these beautiful big washes with thick topsoil because all the mountains, their soils actually wash down into these silty basins. So especially the ridge tops, you get no soil. No soil equals no food. No food equals no flowers. You need to fertilize more often. So you'll find in the mountains of Arizona, you're going to have to fertilize, I say at least 3 times a year. Evergreens 4. Easter, if you're thinking holidays, this is one where you probably do want to pull over. If you've tuned in and you're driving down the road, now's the time. Pull over, pull out that pen and paper, right? Get that cell phone app, notes, here we come. I fertilize 3 times a year, most of my landscape evergreens 4. And here are the holidays that I use as markers. Easter is my spring feeding. 4th of July or Independence Day is my summer feeding because it's right before the rains hit at that point. And then Halloween, October, sometime in October, you need to fertilize the landscape, especially for the spring bloomers. And my evergreens, I'll fertilize at the new year. And so that keeps them green and lush and dark so they don't fade and get this winter chlorosis that happens. And so I encourage you. And the most important of all of those 4 feedings, fall absolutely is without doubt the number one. This is the one you don't want to miss. There's different kinds of foods. Let's go cover that. I got a minute and a half here. Let's just see if I can go deep, how deep I can go. I like organic foods. I'm an organic guy. We're an organic shop. Our plants are organic. Our vegetables are non-GMO. Our trees are all organic. I mean, that's a big thing. And the reason I do that is, yes, my customers like it, but mainly, think of what a garden center owner, after a lifetime of just spraying chemicals around and deal with chemicals, what's the odds of you getting through the end of life without cancer? About 0. Now, I'm going to have melanoma and stuff, but I don't want internal stuff just because I was selling Roundup and malathion and diazinon and all these other nasty things, a lot of them off the market anymore. I try to go organic. And I find my customers appreciate that as well, or at least their dogs do and their birds do. So we go organic. We've got an organic fertilizer. So we spread that out. It breaks down slower over the next 3 months. The plants will absorb more and more of this food. It changes the pH or lowers because we make it for us, the mountains. It actually has a lot of sulfur in it, so it lowers that pH. We're changing the chemistry so the plant can take up more of that fertilizer. But this time of year, the point being, fertilize. I took advantage of the rain, but if you didn't, just get it on there. You don't have to work it in. Just get it on, and Mother Nature will send us more moisture that will do all that work for you. Be right back.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Ken with the Plants of the Week and our fire alarm, red mums.
With a name like Fire Alarm, you'd expect large red blooms that take a fire hose to put the glowing petals out.
Just provide a little garden soil for a flaming red that will last and last.
But wait, there's more. This fire alarm mum comes back again for even bigger show next year and just $3.99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love red mums, they love to shop.
Hi, Waters with the plants of the week and our Regal Petticoat Maple.
If you love maples but want superior leaf color, then this is your shade tree.
Regal maple leaves are glossy green on top with a velvety purple underside.
Through autumn, the petticoat leaves turn gold on top and red on the bottom side. I mean, wow!
This is a great shade tree for just $99.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love Regal maples, they love to shop. And we've got Lisa Waters Lane back in the studio. She comes each week and just shares her gardener's ideas. So just that woman's touch out in the garden. We tag team our gardens together, and they look fabulous right now, my dear. Fabulous.
They do. We just put in a lot of our fall mums and pansies and violas in the pots, and it looks pretty.
Yeah, so we came home from a business trip this week to Reno, Nevada, and then came home, and it was a pleasure to come home and see the beautiful flowers of fall. Now, I haven't picked a pumpkin yet, so I've got giant pumpkins growing in the backyard, probably this week. We're going to Moab next week, so when I come back, we'll go pick a 100-pound pumpkin, put it in a wheelbarrow,
100 pounds,
haul it up front. It's at least, it's grown after that rain last week.
Oh, yeah.
It grew. I mean, they just went boom, just like they fed off the rain. It was amazing. And I fertilized them right before the rain because I wanted to upsize. A couple of them aren't quite up to size, but I think in another week they'll be gorgeous, just simply gorgeous.
So I almost bought a pumpkin the other day at the store.
Sacrilege! I'm growing pumpkins. What are you talking about?
It was tempting. But my thought was, if I put that out front, I know I'm going to encourage the javelinas to come in. Because it happens every time I do that. So I didn't. Now, if we put a 100-pound pumpkin up there, are you just going to put a sign next to it?
Do not. Javelina not welcome. Picture of a javelina with a cross and a circle over it. Yeah. It's part of the game. Just part of the fun to see if we can get them. How long can we go before that big boar comes into the driveway? Now, we have an electric fence in our front yard. We don't encircle the entire yard because we want our guests to be able to get to the front door. We want our Amazon orders. We want, but we don't want them eating the flowers. So we go with that one wire going through the bed. We electrify it. 12 volts is not going to hurt them, folks. But then they zip their nose, get scared, and run off. Every once in a while, a wild boar, one of these big guys, will come down the driveway, snort around, eat a couple things, and leave. I think he eats a pumpkin or eats a pansy and then gets shocked and leaves. So that's kind of how we handle it. So it's not that big an issue.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago they came in and ate everyone.
Like a war zone happened out there.
Yes. I've got another one in the back. I'll go pick another one for you.
Okay.
We'll
see.
We'll get back from Moab. I'll pick you a pumpkin the next day. A big boy, as big as a wheelbarrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see how we can get it up front, but it'll be fun.
Wheelbarrow. So, yeah, that could be. Or bring home the plant caddy here at the garden center, the sling, just kind of carry it up.
That'll probably work.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to talk about fall-colored trees today, but I want to make a couple other mentions of things that just came in that they're kind of like one-shot wonder kind of things. We don't get them all the time. So I kind of wanted to let people know that we have them. The first one is camellias. A lot of your standard camellias, we get too cold here for Prescott. So we can't really grow the ones that everybody's used to from California and the South. But we have a series called the Ice Angels Camellias that do wonderful here. We have 3 different varieties, 2 different pinks and a white one. So we only get 1 shipment a year of those because it's all...
They're loaded with buds, by the way. They're spectacular.
Right.
More of a shade plant. That's we've grown them ourselves. So not direct sun. A little morning sun is fine, but that it's more that north side in a container, in the ground. Either way,
under other pines or something.
Yeah,
very pretty.
Yep.
But we get one shot at those, and we have a bunch in. They look beautiful.
You know where that would be beautiful? Get a nice cobalt blue container and put a camellia, which is evergreen. in the pot. Get it sized right, a little bit bigger one. And then it'll bloom usually February, March, April, May is when it's window to bloom. And then you just have this beautiful evergreen, but they're loaded with buds right now. So you look at them and go, oh, flowers are coming. Flowers are like a rhododendron or an azalea or something.
The buds stay there a long time and bloom. So something to think about, people. The other thing we got in is a nice shipment of the Ivory Feathers Pampas grass. Now, Ivory Feathers is the one that we have here at the store at the entryway coming in. People go, oh, what is that? And so Ivory Feathers is that more, they call it a dwarf.
It's only as tall as a human being.
Right.
It's not as tall as a garden shed. I mean, it's not that big. It's a click down. It's half the size of a regular Pampas.
Much more manageable in your landscape.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes they're a little bit hard to find, but we got a nice shipment in. So if you've been wanting one of those, now's a good time.
Boy, if ever you were going to plant a Pampas grass or a grass, an ornamental, hardy, perennial grass, whatever size, but Pampas is the rock star right now because it's so pretty. Fall, this is your time. You have more choices, more varieties, and there are some genetics involved with grasses. So you want the big, beautiful, gorgeous, like blonde scent out there. You want a drop dead gorgeous plant, not the kind of off, not as pretty a one. So now you can see what it's going to look like for the rest of its life, because once the genetics are in there, it just keeps on blooming. Every fall, you can count on it from this point forward.
Right. I think they're beautiful. So something to think about, people. If you've been waiting and wanting, now's the time.
I'm wanting.
So fall color trees. Starting to see some turn out in the landscape. I don't think our big maple up front is turning.
Not quite, but it's on that sunny hill, so it's kind of one of the last ones to turn in the community. But when it does, all the neighbors comment about it.
Oh, it is beautiful. But we're starting to see some turn, some change in the colors, and I love this time of year, so it's always fun to see. But when you talk about great big trees that turn colors, of course, maples. Everybody thinks maples, and rightly so. I mean, they're just a gorgeous tree for here, and they perform very, very well. Oaks, a lot of the red oaks, take some time to get big, but they do get big, and they're beautiful. They turn that red color.
I saw some red showing up on things. You've got some maples. Just looking on my phone, going Instagram. I just posted some red maple that came in, and 54 of you have hit the heart button. Thank you very much. So just goofing off in the trees with the red leaves. It's just pretty. It's kind of fun to see all that fall color. Those are ones you do want to grab. Trees are one of these things that you want to pay a little bit more money for. You want the nicer one. You want the bigger trunk. You want one that's been trimmed back. You don't want the whip, the tree that's been growing for 2 years in a 5-gallon bucket, and it's cheaper, but you want it to be deadheaded, cut back, grafted, and larger and groomed so it takes on the right form. Trees are where you don't want to take shortcuts. Shrubs, not as much. Perennials, it doesn't matter. But the trees, especially your slower growing ones like oaks, some of your locusts, you really want to make sure you buy a nice one.
Definitely, yes. So the ornamental pear, would you throw that into the big tree list, or would you say more medium? I would say
big.
Tree?
I'd say it's a shade tree. It's a 30, 35-foot tree. I mean, compared to a 100-foot ponderosa, a redwood, a cottonwood, a willow. It's not to that size. So it's a step down from that. But it's a good, for most yards, especially the new homes, it's like the perfect size tree for that backyard. You need some shade on the patio. The ornamental pears, they're perfect.
They are. The nice thing about them is the white spring blossoms, nice green leaves, and they're one of the last ones to actually turn color in that fall season. So you're getting your leaves kind of stay on a little bit longer. You get a longer season from them.
I would say that for all the fruit trees, I mean, ornamental or regular fruiting trees. So you're starting to see with the cherries and things some color on them. The crab apples have some of that orangey reds. Right. Those are all great choices. The Bradford pear or ornamental pear, there's Cleveland,
Aristocrat.
There's a lot of different ornamental pears. They don't form pears. They're just flowers without the fruit. So you get the spring flowers, but you haven't even started showing color yet. Maybe another month. they'll start showing some color, and they're stunning, rich red. I mean, deep fire engine, like I want the lights on fire engine red. That's the color of that tree.
Yeah, very pretty. If you're medium kind of trees, I would say the Raywood ash is absolutely gorgeous. There's flame maples too for small trees. Lots of color trees. Come in and check them out.
And it's time to plant trees, so go for it. So the fall color's starting to show up. You can come in and pick up the leaves off the ground. They're free. They're in color. So here at Waters Garden Center, be right back with more on the Mountain Gardeners.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week and our sizzling summer daisy.
This snow white daisy is a natural in the summer garden when tall white flowers are desired.
Highbrow enough to use in estate settings or amassed into formal beds surrounded by boxwood for under $12.
In entertainment areas, this sizzler literally leaps up under a full moon, easy to grow, and prefers planting during the monsoon.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love summer daisies love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week and our fragrant Low Sumac.
The cute foliage is fragrant when brushed against and utterly detestable to wildlife of all kinds.
A knee-high native that takes any abuse, loves wind, blistering hot sun, and rocky hillsides.
At $39, this hardy shrub is ideal for owners of investment and commercial rentals.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love native sumac, they love to shop. All right, let's just see if I can go deeper into this tree thing Lisa was on to. What kinds of trees can you grow here? Let's go from small to medium to large. And I'll focus mainly on the leafy things, not so much fruit trees. Now, fruit trees, I'll just mention that real quick. Yes, we grow exceptional fruits. We don't grow any citrus or avocados. That's more of the Southern Cal desert kind of thing. But here we do grow exceptional apples, pears. The harvest has been tremendous. Peaches, oh my gosh. Cherries. Cherries grow so well at the higher elevations of the mountains of Arizona. They really do well. I would say apricots, nectarines actually will grow in your backyard. And they're self-fruitful. It only takes one tree and you're done. Plums, oh my gosh. The best plums you've ever tasted coming out of your own backyard. This is your time to plant those. And so those are your fruits that you can grow. What you're looking for with those kinds of trees are chilling hours. You want a minimum, absolute bottom line minimum, you want 600 to 650 chilling hours. On that tag, it'll actually tell you how late blooming it's going to be. What we want is a lot of chilling hours so that what that is with fruit trees is it needs so many nights of cold before it triggers its bloom. And so a desert variety might have 200 chilling hours. It needs some cold, but not very much. So it's blooming by February, January, even at the higher elevations up here. It's got enough chilling hours to bloom. That's more for the deserts, the low altitude kind of stuff. Here we want a minimum. Apples. I'm looking for apples that need at least 900, 1,000, 1,100 chilling hours. So they're not going to bloom until the end of April, May, before they start waking up. So I get them out of that risk of frost. By then we're hitting our last frost date, usually, and they'll bloom. You can get apricots, the biggest mistake anyone ever makes planting in the mountains. So plant an apricot, and they'll do a desert variety, and so they're blooming in February. Oh my gosh, 1st of March. Well, our last frost date here in Prescott is Mother's Day. That's the first week in May. You get 2 months of exposure to possible frost. So what's the likelihood of you getting an apricot, a desert variety apricot? Virtually none. The tree is not affected at all. It's the fruit. When does it bloom, set fruit? And if that flower or fruit gets frozen, it dies. The fruit falls off. The tree doesn't die, but the fruit will shrivel up and fall off. So we've got Chilton, Harcots, Tilton, apricots. They have 800 chilling hours. They're getting you out. They're getting real close to that last frost date. So you'll have much more consistent fruiting on that type of apricot. The point being, I don't want to go any deeper than that. Do your homework. Know who you're buying it from, what variety, and how many chilling hours it needs. And minimum are 650 hours. Even that's low. I would say 800 is what I would do for my own self. I wouldn't go any lower than that. But you'll find all kinds of stuff in the mountains. You'll just find all kinds of this desert influence coming at you. So a lot of folks plant the wrong variety of fruit tree, especially if you're shopping at the big boxes. They're bringing, the buyer will go, yeah, send 50 to every one of my stores in all of Arizona. So from Nogales to Flagstaff and Pine Top, everything in between, you've got the same variety of desert fruit tree that doesn't grow. Anyway, I get embarrassed by what I see other folks selling at their garden centers. For here, fruit trees. So if you're talking about smaller trees in general, just ornamental trees, not fruit trees, ornamentals, you've got redbuds. We're famous for our redbuds. A western redbud grows wild. Eastern redbuds thinks it grows wild here. They just do really well. Crab apples have the showiest of all of the fruiting spring trees. You've got right now serviceberry or what is that? What's the botanical on that? Anyway, there's a wild cherry, a choke cherry kind of thing that grows wild here. It doesn't form a cherry. It's got a white flower in spring, but it's beautiful orange and red colors in the fall of the year. It's a smaller tree. You'll see a tree just blooming wild, white out in the wild, and that's usually that type of cherry. Purple leaf plum, of course, is probably the most almost overdone of all of the trees, but a lot of folks come from green country and they've never seen a purple tree. They go, I want all purple, nothing but purple. That's so cool. Oh, a little bit's good, but a lot of it's a good one to intermix from a design standpoint. Spot some purple with your greens and things, and it looks good. I'd say the same thing with your purple birch, your purple cherries. There's several trees that have purple foliage on them. There's even a purple redbud of all things, forest pansy redbud. Very interesting, big heart-shaped leaf, but the foliage is purple. So that's another small leaf. Your medium-sized trees, we're getting into some definition, but I would say ginkgo. You California folks, you love ginkgos. They do really well here. Very long-lived. One of the most ancient of all trees. We see ginkgo in the fossil record from millions of years ago. You can have one of those in your backyard. They're still growing today and stunning aspen gold color. They're just starting to show their fall color. Very pretty leaf to it. I would put in that same category ash, from Arizona ash, which is the native, to Modesto ash, which I can't tell the difference between the two. Modesto or Arizona, I spec them in interchangeably, but it's a good medium size, hardy, robust tree that turns gold in the fall of the year. Very pretty shape to them. Then the Raywood ash is much larger than that. It gets up maybe 35, 40 feet tall if they're really ancient. Mid-30s is kind of realistic for Raywood ash. It's famous for its purple, solid purple color and lollipop-shaped head to it. Just real pretty, formal-looking tree, dense shade. And the last one I'd put in that medium size would be locust. Golden locust or shademaster locust. It's a filtered sun, has a smaller leaf. For those of you up on a hilltop and you just don't like raking leaves at all, you hardcore Midwestern folks, I moved to Arizona never to rake again. I gave away my rake when I moved here and I'm not raking again. Go with the locust. It's got a small leaf and it just blows away. I don't know where they go. They just blow away and there's no raking. Whereas a sycamore, huge leaf. You're going to rake every single one of those leaves up, no matter where. You're going to get those little balls that fall down in the spring. It's a big, gigantic tree, but not so with the others, the ginkgos, the locusts, the ash. They're smaller leafed, easier to maintain. Less weedy, less trashy, and great fall color. Your golden locust comes out in spring as gold, goes to green in summer, and then drops off as gold, and then blows away. Your really big trees, I want a shade tree. I got some serious property. I want a big tree out here. Now, those are going to be, I just mentioned sycamore. That's a giant. I wouldn't classify that as a fall colored tree. They kind of go from green to brown, and they don't give up the leaves very easy. They drop a long time. So I wouldn't plant that one myself. I sell them because they're such a popular tree, but for myself, I'd rather have a maple, red maples. These are big 30, 40, 45-foot trees, classic maple leaf, big red, gorgeous red leaf. And there's several varieties. Prescott Blaze to your Amber, red Acer Rebrum from the Midwest, that classic Midwest red. It grows here as well. And it takes our wind and our clay soils, does really well. Another one, I would say the pin oak and red oak. Now, pin oak grows wild up in Groom Creek. The Bradshaws, the Mingus, the hilltops grows wild. But it'll also grow at the lower elevations if you put it on a drip system. Very pretty classic maple leaf. Has the acorns, so you're going to get some acorns with that. But some people like that. They're pretty to collect and add to potpourris or whatever. But oaks last, they live forever. Virtually, hundreds and hundreds of years. They're going to live, and they got that beautiful red fall color. And then, of course, aspens are a tall tree, not very wide, but very tall. They go to the moon, but grow only 10 feet wide. They're great for framing vistas and that kind of stuff. So that's a great shading a patio. I shade the west side of my house with aspens because I don't want it to get wide. I want it to go tall. It's a 2.5-story house. I need some shade. It's a blistering hot west wall. Aspens are doing the trick. Those are some of the fall colored trees you'll find at garden centers that can be planted right now.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Hi, Lisa here with the plants of the week in our yellow Echinacea.
We crossed a coneflower and black-eyed Susan and created an impressive new bloomer.
Free-flowering daisy-like blooms are cheery and loves full sun.
The 3-inch flowers are bigger, showier, and longer lasting through the heat of summer at just $14 while they last.
You'll only find them at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love new summer bloomers, they love to shop.
Hi, Ken here with the plants of the week in our Goldfinger Potentia.
A versatile knee-high shrub that charms with its cheery buttercup gold flowers.
A truly hardy perennial that loves to bloom in the hot, dry spaces in the garden.
With long fingers of fine foliage, it's an attention-getting foundation plant.
Deer, javelina, rabbits, no problems. They don't like the flowers or the foliage, and just $14.
Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road in Prescott, where people who love cheery summer shrubs, they love to shop.
You're listening to The Mountain Gardener with local expert Ken Lane. Mountain gardening can be challenging, but with Ken's tips, tricks, and garden advice, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, welcome back to The Mountain Gardener.
It's been such a nice week. Finally, it's fall. We had our rainstorms, so the ground is moist. What you'll find is your shovel will slip in the ground like butter. Oh yeah, very nice. Much easier to dig when the ground is moist rather than dry and crusty. Unless, like I just had, I was just talking to the planting crew. They came back. I just bought them a brand new 70-pound jackhammer. They generally have 35s. They're all electric. You plug them in, you make them go. They got into this one job, I think up at a hillside overlooking Prescott Lakes or something here in Prescott. And they came back with nothing but debris. They had to come back and get more topsoil to add to the holes because all they pull out of this thing with the jackhammer were rocks. And so you just can't plant in rocks. I think they even brought a plant back because it just couldn't go. They couldn't put it in the ground. It would just die. If they planted it here where the consumer wanted it, it would suffer and slowly fade. They said, nah, too rocky, it can't go anywhere else, let's just return it and bring it back. And so they were just frustrated how hard the soil was, even with a jackhammer. Right now, it's so much easier. Our planting crew would rather not pull the jackhammer out. They'd rather use a digging bar, a pick, a shovel, because it's hard to set up all this equipment. But if they have to, it makes the job go faster. Well, right now, you could buy a tree, a shrub, or flowers, whatever in your own yard, and it'll be much easier to dig now than it would be, let's say, a week ago before the storm. So we had some dry weather for a bit. And so now you got to watch your irrigation. When you had so much rain and then you double down on that irrigation, sometimes you can overwater a bit when it's this cool at night. So you got to get that balance right. So anyway, I digress. Next week's garden class. Today, it's on irrigation. Just how do you program your irrigation clock going into fall? We go deep into all the technical aspects of irrigation today. Next week on the 13th, it's the top trees of fall. And we picked October 13th because I think the trees will be starting to show color. You're seeing it all around town, but we can really, here's what color they turn. Purple, see the ash? Red, see the maple? Red, see the orange? See the crab apples? Red, see the Bradford pears? You can see what color they're actually going to be, and we'll describe which ones are best and how to plant them. And then October 20, container garden designs. Lisa's going to teach a container class. And then how do you mix those winter? How do we change out from that summer mix? It's going to die here in 2-3 weeks and go with the winter mix. What plants can you plant now? And they will keep on blooming right through winter. We'll go. And then how do you design with them? So lots of design ideas and more. And it keeps going. You can take a look at all of those at watersgardencenter.com. That's at the very front. front page. Big button that says classes. And that's where all of them are listed. Of course, if you're Facebook, it's facebook.com/Waters Garden Center. Look under events, and all the classes are listed there. It's meant to be a help each week. Of course, throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Waters Garden Center. And quite honestly, we really enjoy helping gardeners, especially folks who have been tuned in. They were listening to the show and had further follow-up questions. We didn't quite get to where you wanted to go, or we didn't go deep enough. Bring a sample. Bring a photo. Let us take a look. We love helping friends, especially if we know you've been listening or tuned in. You're one of us, one of the insiders of the newsletter, the podcast, the radio show, our magazine articles. We like helping friends. It's not just an ego thing, although sometimes you do all this work and you wonder if anyone's listening. So it does help us with that somewhat, a little bit of ego, but really, we just want to help people garden better, truly. That formula has worked for us for decades. You help people garden, and they want to come back and shop with you and garden some more. So each week, Lisa and I just hang out here at Waters Garden Center. Have a good week, everyone.
The Mountain Gardener, your source for garden advice right for the higher elevation of Arizona with local garden expert and the Mountain Gardener himself, Ken Lane. Listen in every week for Ken's tips, tricks, and techniques that are guaranteed to make a difference in your yard this season.
Gardening has always come natural to me. Green thumbs, they just run in the family. So when the Family Garden Center was offered to Lisa and I, we jumped on the opportunity. I've always loved coming to the nursery, being surrounded by all the beauty, helping the backyard gardener, and passing on some of that natural magic that happens so easily for me. We aren't just selling plants, we're offering garden success. My name is Ken Lane, owner, and you'll feel the magic here at Waters Garden Center, 1815 Iron Springs Road, here in Prescott.
You've been listening to local garden expert Ken Lane, the owner of Waters Garden Center in Prescott. Join him each week as he answers timely garden questions unique to the area. He can be found throughout the week at Waters Garden Center, located in Prescott at 1815 Iron Springs Road. Thanks for tuning in to The Mountain Gardener.